Hello guys, this is your friend and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is what if Naruto and Kyuubi rose together, with Hinata by his side. Part 1. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. Naruto walked home late that night as he had drowned his sorrows at the ramen stand, deflating much of his once oversized frog wallet. The slightly smaller frog wallet itself in question had been slowly expanding with money for some time, since most of the village shopkeepers and restaurant businesses chased him out with broomsticks or whatever was in their hands on. On most of the occasions that they did, the objects they would use to scare and chase him out with were sharp ones like knives and stabbing-like weapons. The blonde-haired boy was 11 years old and had just finished trying to pass the Genin exam once again at the Ninja Academy. It was an academy where he wanted to learn to be obviously a ninja to eventually become the all-powerful and almighty Hokage. It was his dream to become a Hokage and then eventually surpass all of them, making him the greatest. Sadly, today had not been his day like the last time he had tried, and this time he had pushed himself twice as hard as the last time. With a fake smile on his face and a happy stomach now filled to the brim with tasty ramen of multiple flavors, Naruto headed home, ignoring the hateful stares of people out at night from both villagers and ninja alike. Naturally, Naruto did not like the dark looks from everyone very much, and at the same time he didn't even know why they hated him so much. Well, besides the small pranks he pulled on them every now and then, which were mostly harmless. The most harmful thing he had done was have a few of the stores with customers inside that had been mean to him be temporarily consumed in purple or pink paint after one of his paint bombs went off locked in a scroll when they were opened. Despite their threats that they were going to report to the Hokage about what he did, he was only brought before the third Hokage, noticeably around second or third offense. I'll talk to old man Hokage about giving me help tomorrow, seeing as it's that time of the week when paperwork is the lowest for him, thought Naruto as he had more than his fair share of visits to the Hokage's office for some of his more serious pranks. When Naruto did sit before the Hokage, the elderly man looked at him with eyes that one would see in a gentle grandfather. Grandfather-like eyes that told Naruto he understood the boy's inner pain of being alone and wanting attention, since he did not have the kind and loving parents like most children his age. Unfortunately though, it still did not grant Naruto the immunity of doing several hours of community service on required days under a watchful ninja supervision. The reason was that there had been times when working at a house that the person or people living there had tried to secretly kill or severely injure the boy, forcing the ninja watching from the shadows to interfere on the boy's behalf. That's another thing I have to talk to the old man about. Maybe he will finally tell me and not change the subject like he's done in the past. It's almost as if I did something wrong, but what I did was so bad it made everyone hate me. But did I do to make everyone like that even before my pranks started? Said Naruto in a very low whisper, feeling that talking to himself would give him the answers he wanted to his question, but his mind could not give him the answer he wanted. He shook it off for the moment as he headed back to his apartment and dreaded landlord, who he could swear to the 4 Hokage heads above that the old bastard of a man had been stealing money from within his apartment. Naruto entered the slightly decaying on the outside looking building while ignoring the looks from what few tenants were in the hall area that he passed by. Just as he was about to enter, his sickly old landlord popped his head out with a look of disgust on his face at seeing the boy was still alive. "Hey brat, I want another few hundred ryo from you tomorrow for this month's rent," said Jin, the old man landlord, who knew perfectly well he had been already paid in full by the boy since the boy got an allowance from the third Hokage himself. "You have this month's rent from me, so I do not have to give you any more for this stupid month, old coot. Why do you not actually bother the other tenants who don't pay their rent?" said Naruto, unlocking his apartment door with the key he had. "Hey, you listen to me, you damn brat. I'm the landlord of this place, and whether you like it or not, I can raise the rates of any part of this apartment complex higher than the other. If you don't like it, then you can get the hell out," said Jin, as he didn't like it when little demon boys told him what to do, as he had seen and felt the power of the 9-tailed fox demon sealed inside the boy. "Maybe I will when I go see the Hokage tomorrow and tell him that you bother someone who pays rent while you don't lift a finger to those who don't. Maybe he can fire you for doing a piss poor job," said Naruto, opening the door, entering, shutting, and then locking it to prevent Jin from coming at him with his cane. Judging from the look on the old man, that was any indication, Jin probably would have tried to come at Naruto even if the cane was reinforced with solid steel. Even now Jin was pounding on his door, cursing and raving about lousy brats and not respecting their elders who were much smarter than the boy. "You little bastard, I'm warning you right now. If you don't give me the money tomorrow that I ask for, I'm evicting you. Hokage's orders be damned, said Jin beyond the door before stomping away cane and all. Lousy old man, I'm not paying him any more than he deserves, and when I go to see the Hokage tomorrow I'm going to make sure he knows what that old fart said to me, said Naruto as he headed for his bedroom, taking off his white shirt with orange spiral on it before falling into bed face first with just his black pants on. Unknown to Naruto as he slept, however, was that the landlord had no intention of Naruto even seeing the third Hokage, much less expecting the boy to live past tonight. He had secretly talked to a low-level Chunin-level ninja whose parents had died at the hands of nine-tailed demon fox Kyuubi those 11 years ago. Originally the ninja didn't have the knowledge of Kyuubi's existence within Naruto, though after the landlord spoke very discreetly with the ninja, the hatred for the boy as seeing him as the Kyuubi flared to no end, with only revenge in his mind against the demon fox. So Jin and the Chunin-level ninja came to an agreement that after the boy left on this particular for his home to sleep, the ninja would sneak in via window to the bedroom and kill the demon boy in his sleep, thus killing the demon fox inside of him. Soon I'll have that annoying brat out of my hair and the demon within him, making me a hero. Then the people will flock to this place where the demon died that I helped kill, and I will make a fortune in the process, thought Jin as he could only imagine the money he was going to make off of the boy's death as he himself slowly went to sleep with the perfect alibi that was available to him for being old, as he did what all old people do, sleep. The low-level Chunin ninja in question crept up the wall silently to the window that the Jin had left open for him to enter, knowing the demon boy was too clueless to even realize his window had been opened by someone other than him. Time to die, Kyuubi. Then and only then will my parents' souls rest in peace, thought the Chunin, who was masked and covered from head to foot so he couldn't be identified as the man who did what the fourth Hokage could not, slay the Kyuubi. The Chunin entered the room, leaping over Naruto's bed with Naruto in it, looking as the boy turned over onto his back, his stomach with the seal exposed in the moonlight that entered the window. The very seal that the fourth Hokage gave his life to put on the boy to contain the monster that was Kyuubi. Now, you monster, I'm going to do to you what should have been done when you were put into this child. I'm going to kill you, and then I'll become a hero of the people, just like the fourth Hokage was when he watched over this village, said the Chunin as he took out his sword from his back, raised it over his head with the sword point downward towards the seal, ready to thrust it into the sleeping and unsuspecting child below him. He did just that, however. Just as he was about to make contact with the seal, it came to life with a demonic orange-reddish light glow, knocking the Chunin back several feet onto his back. When he looked back at the boy, what he saw scared the shit out of him to no end, as a hand was now rising out of seal. It was soon followed by an arm, and a head with only one cold, ruthless, and evil-looking eye. It was not long before the figure left the prison of a seal, completely stepping on solid ground, cracking his neck back and forth. Then the unknown being started stretching and cracking other joints with the figure's body. Ah, the smell of a living body, said the figure, breathing in air heavily as he looked around, now dressed in half orange, half a shadowy black, with strange-looking metal arm as well as leg bands, with a strange-looking metal masked face and one eye. Who the hell are you? Said Chunin, reading his sword in case he was in for the fight of his life, which his instincts told him that he was. The figure, his head slightly to the right then back again before looking over at Naruto's form before putting his index finger up to his mouth to silence the man from waking the boy. Shoes. We don't want to wake up the boy, do you? He's had rough day and needs his rest. Double sound barrier jutsu, said the masked figure as he now went through several dozen hand seals before activating the power of the jutsu. I've never heard of a double sound barrier jutsu. What is it? Said the Chunin, gripping his sword tighter, looking between the figure and Naruto, wondering if he could still kill the boy if he still tried. It's quite a genius technique really, as it creates a sound barrier over someone inside of the room so they don't listen in on conversations, while creating a second sound barrier around the room to prevent anyone outside the room from listening in. As for not hearing about it, I just created it some few months ago while inside the boy. The very same boy that you were about to kill just now, said the figure. His voice at the end went from casual to a very dangerous to near threatening tone as the one eye narrowed dangerously at the Chunin. Wait, did you just say you were inside him? Then that means, you're Kyuubi, said the Chunin, backing away towards the door of the bedroom only to find it was strange as it was locked. Please mortal, that is a name you people gave me, and to me such a name has no meaning if it is not real to who I am. Though I feel you do deserve to know my name before I kill you and send you into hell. My name is Slade, said Slade, moving at inhuman speed and grabbed the Chunin ninja by the throat into the wall, squeezing the now gasping man to death. All will be explained at the end of the chapter. I swear. Wait. I have information, said the Chunin, knowing if he could hold out long enough he could somehow escape from this thing, then he could warn the Hokage, which in turn would force his leader to kill the boy to protect the village. Depending on what you say will depend on your life's value to me, thus not having me kill you in a painful manner, said Slade before kneeing him in the stomach, making the Chunin drop his sword onto the ground. The landlord, Jin, he hired me to kill the boy. He did it in order to try and profit from his act. I mean your death, said the Chunin, who now saw two of the Kyuubi now calling itself Slade narrowed its eye dangerously. I'm well aware of that fact, fool. In fact, you are just one of many who have tried to hurt and kill the boy when you are not trying to stunt his development at being a ninja. Let us have you try telling me something I don't already know from being inside the poor boy for over a decade, said Slade, punching the man in the side, fracturing and breaking 5 out of 6 of the Chunin's left ribs, making the man want to scream in pain, if his poor throat wasn't so hard pressed against Slade's metal-covered right hand. All right. Groans in pain, your vessel, that is. Naruto. He should have passed the genin exam at the Ninja Academy, not once, but both times. Said the Chunin, whose eyes were closed from the pain that he was feeling on the left side of his ribs as he felt as if one was intruding through his left lung. Really? My now this little man, this is interesting news. Do you know how they prevented Naruto from passing the genin exam? Did those who told you what you know so far not give that little piece of information, or did they decide in the interest of secrecy not tell you that little piece of info? Said Slade as he squeezed tighter on the throat just before he slammed his fist into the man's left kneecap. They said something about a genjutsu that was being used on his test papers. The genjutsu would look like a test from another exam, so he wouldn't be able to answer the tests correctly. Then when the genjutsu was dispelled later, they would mark his test wrong, thus failing him. That's all I know, I swear, said the Chunin as the intense pain his body was feeling was indescribable and was now a breath away from blacking out. That's a good boy. Your information that you just told me will come in handy when I go to speak to your third Hokage about these types of indiscretions against my vessel. As payment for telling me, I will grant you a swift and near painless death, said Slade as his hand around the man's throat was now covered in fire spreading through the man's body before the Chunin screamed right before his body was turned to ashes in Slade's hand. With the Chunin ninja now dead, Slade turned his attention to the boy that was his vessel that still slept in the bed as if nothing had happened. Slade dispelled the first half of the jutsu that was surrounding Naruto before looking out the window out towards Konoha. Well, at least it's cleaner than the last time I was here before the attack I launched on this place. Though Jump City was my personal favorite of a city to be in. Oh well, beggars can't be choosers, and I am neither, nor will I be. Time to get down to business, but first I need to take care of despicable landlord of his, and I know just how to do it. Hehehe, thought Slade as he turned to the boy and gave him a pat on his head, which Naruto tried to flick away, moving as if he were in a fight. Save your energy, my boy, you're going to need it for when the real training comes and not from the ones in your dreams, said Slade, also known simply as the Great Kyuubi, the great and power nine-tailed fox demon that turned around, leaving the boy in the room and Naruto's apartment, heading towards the landlord's right down the hall. 5 minutes later, Jin woke up to the sound of polite knocking at his door and smiled to himself, knowing that the deed was done and the Kyuubi brat, or demon boy, was no more. Soon it would be time to spread the word the boy was dead and the wealth pouring in. Naturally, the ninja assassin that was the Chunin he hired would get a significant chunk of the pay, seeing as neither one could back out of the deal without facing the third Hokage's wrath. However, Jin's smiling face changed when he opened the door, seeing that it was not the ninja he hired, but someone of much taller, stronger, and intimidating stature to him than his assassin ever was. Who the hell are you? Said Jin, his foul tongue not hiding any of the venom in his voice, because this meant the deal was still in motion of being complete for him. The name is Slade. I'm here to talk to you about one of your tenants that currently resides on this floor with you. I believe his name is Naruto. Uzumaki Naruto is his full name, to be more precise, said Slade as he slightly narrowed his eye to gauge the mont's response. What about the brat? If you want his apartment, you have to wait a while, as his eviction is going to be quite an eyesore all in one for this village. Once he has been what's the word I'm looking for, disposed of, I'll give it you with the first 2 months free and you can redecorate it any way you want it. Till then leave me the hell alone, said Jin, who moved to shut the door only to have Metal Finger from Slade block the man from shutting the door completely. I think you have misunderstood me, sir. I am not here in regards to removing Naruto's presence from your housing complex. I'm here in regards to removing you from here and from Naruto's presence, said Slade, who then punched the old man from the gap in the door before the man could react, sending him flying back several feet into a nearby coffee table. What are you saying, you idiot? Don't you know about that boy? He is the nine-tailed fox demon Kyuubi reborn in a human body. If he is killed now, then he will never grow up with a second chance to kill us a second time, said Jin, who was surprised this man would even defend the beast. You will forgive me if I don't sound so shocked, as you are not the first person who has said that about Naruto with a different point of view. Nonetheless, you are a threat to the boy and therefore a threat to me since I live within him, said Slade in a dangerous yet still calm voice as he extended his right hand and led a demonic orange-reddish flame that turned into an enlarged hand towards Jin, grabbing him and sending him into the wall. Ah, what the? How can you be the Kyuubi? You don't look like a demonic fox to me, said Jin as the flaming hand squeezing his old frail body into ashes and bone dust. With that remark, I don't know if I should feel like I have been complimented or insulted by you, but regardless, either way you're thin ice. After all, such flattery towards me will get you nowhere, said Slade, squeezing the old man with his fire extension of a hand. Wait, if you let me live I will be your loyal servant and help you get out of that pesky brat you are a vessel of, said Jin, hoping Kyuubi would listen to him if he were offered a chance for freedom from Naruto's body. Thank you for the offer, but I must decline, seeing as I rather like my vessel and it would be a dishonor to his father and mother if I didn't protect him from dying from people like you, said Slade as he continued to squeeze even more of what remained of life out of the old man before the old man was nothing more than what he was aiming for, ashes and dust. Now that is taken care of, I need to make sure no one goes investigating, which means I have to destroy this place while at the same time take Naruto somewhere where he can have a solid ironclad alibi. It wouldn't really hurt to have as a precaution in case he is accused of doing it because of my shining influence. People always used to say be careful of faulty wiring, thought Slade as he went over to the TV with the plug behind it before peeling away the wiring and making it catch slightly on fire, but he put a small, but still quite powerful containment jutsu barrier around the fire so when the time came it would spread when he removed the barrier with a mere mental thought. Slade then went to the gas-powered oven and turned on the gas to a setting between low and medium, but at the same time kept the opening of oven thin to give time for the gas to leak out, giving him at least 5 or 6 hours to go before he would leave with Naruto to some place in the village while this part of the complex went boom. Now for phase 2 of the plan, said Slade as he left this apartment and went straight back to Naruto's, as there were some things that needed be said then and now. Naruto stirred slightly in his slumber only to find that someone was jostling him from his sleep rather urgently, causing him to wake up. Out of instinct, Naruto tried to punch the unknown figure in somewhere on the body, whether it was the person's face or someplace else. He wasn't exactly the most liked person in all of Konoha after all, and his landlord was proof enough as it was. What Naruto felt with fist connecting with when his mind became more conscious was a metal-covered hand, or rather palm, now closing around it slowly. Who's that? Who's there? Said Naruto, trying to remove his trapped fist from the enclosed palm while trying to see clearly in the darkness of his room. As much as I would like to humor myself by indulging you on who would win this little battle of the fists in the dark, we don't have time, said Slade, letting go of Naruto's hand and turned on a light in his room, but not before he closed the blinds and tightened them shut so no one would know he was awake. Who are you? Are you some crazy villager trying to kill me for some stupid reason, or did that crazy old landlord hire you to beat me up to take money from me? Said Naruto, getting into an amateurish, but still promising fighting stance. The name is Slade. As to your second question, I'm not a crazy villager out to kill you for whatever reason they have against you. As for your landlord, I think he's taking a nap right now considering his old age, said Slade, lying about the last part before turning around, moving over to a splintery, cracking, and nearly unstable chair, sitting on it as if it were the safest thing to sit on in the world, and sat down in it. So, who exactly are you? I mean, I know your name, which sounds pretty cool from the way you said it, but, could you tell me more? Said Naruto, looking at the man with the strange metal face and one eye. Slade sat there for a good full minute considering his options on telling Naruto everything and not just a half-truth lie of sorts to make the boy trust him. If he told him everything, it could make the boy unstable and possibly freak out on him, thus make things very much more difficult for him to handle the boy. If Slade told only half the truth, then lied all the same to gain Naruto's trust and then got caught in one of the lies, then the boy wouldn't trust him later when he would much stronger from his tutelage. No one like it when they are lied to, and when you channel that anger into the teachings given to you, then anything you face becomes a wall that must be destroyed. Quite frankly, Slade did not want to be that wall that needed to be destroyed, as he wanted to help the boy as he was the uninvited guest inside of him. Okay Naruto, I'll tell you, but when I do you may not like what you are going to hear, said Slade, getting the boy's already full undivided attention. You see Naruto, approximately 11 years ago, when you had just been born, a great and powerful nine-tailed demon fox simply named and dubbed Kyuubi attacked. The leader of this village at the time was the fourth Hokage and was considered the greatest of all the Hokages that came before him. After many shinobi and ninja died trying to stop this great beast, your fourth Hokage called forth a forbidden technique that called forth the death god, who in exchange for the Hokage's life sealed him in newborn child. Should the child die, then the demon inside of him, whose life is now connected to the child, would then die with his human vessel, said Slade, waiting for this information to sink into the boy's thick skull. Wait a sec. The history books in school and the teachers themselves said that the nine-tailed fox that was Kyuubi was killed by the fourth, not sealed. If what you are telling me is true, then who was this boy Kyuubi was sealed into? Said Naruto, as he had a deep feeling in his gut that he was about to be hit with a bombshell of worry and sadness not caused by expired milk or hate-filled words by villagers. That boy Naruto, that boy that holds the most powerful of all the 9 demon lords of this world, is none other than you, said Slade, pointing to Naruto, who took all of the 10 seconds of silence in the room to properly absorb this information. Naruto was an 11-year-old boy with great dreams and thought nothing could ever stop them from being a reality. Despite the adults' hatred for him, despite the pain they gave him, and despite every obstacle they threw at him. However, the news that Slade had just told him about himself and who was inside was throwing everything into a whole new yet still similar perspective. He now knew why he was hated, why people had hurt him when he was younger, and why he was chased away from people's businesses, their restaurants, and even other kids his or close to his age. So that's why. How do you know all of this? You don't look like a ninja, and I'm pretty sure that old man Hokage would have told me eventually when I was old enough to understand this. Right, said Naruto, making Slade's eye raise up slightly in surprise at the boy's observant skills, seeing as he always seemed oblivious to everything around him, like a certain Hyuga girl who blushed just by merely looking at the boy. First, I would just like to say you are handling this pretty well and not freaking out as I had expected you to. Second, the reason no one has told you was because no one felt you needed to know, possibly out of fear of the Kyuubi waking up. Third, I know these things because, well, you see, gets up from chair, I am the Kyuubi in human form, said Slade, waiting for the kid to have a spaz attack and reach for the sharpest thing near him to kill or defend himself. Surprisingly, Naruto just sat there as if lost in his own little world of his, with a shocked and completely horrified, for the first 30 seconds. You did this to me. I hate you, yelled Naruto, dashing forward, fist aiming directly for Slade's slightly surprised face, as he expected the boy to do anything else than this, but the boy was always full of surprises from what he saw through the boy's eyes. Something that was now all too simple to understand for the 9-tailed demon lord, as Naruto's fist collided with Slade's metal masked skull that was followed by another and then another before it was followed up with a vicious roundhouse kick to the temple of human-looking Kyuubi. Naruto was about to finish him off with jackknife jump kick when Slade moved and then caught the attack in a fraction of a second with his right hand before swinging the angry boy into the nearest wall that was on his right before pinning the boy there with the help of his left hand on the boy's throat. Then with his arms he maneuvered them to suppress most of the boy's still struggling to fight movements. You need to calm down, Naruto, as I am not the big bad demon you think I am. Hear me out, and if you do not like what you hear, I'll help you end your life, thus ending mine, said Slade, knowing that if he were to ever get on Naruto's good side to trust him, he would have to tell him everything. Naruto eventually stopped struggling almost instantly when he saw into Slade's one eye and saw the pure seriousness of the situation and how serious the man, if he could be called that, was. You got 5 minutes before I find a knife and put it through my throat, said Naruto, not wanting to Slade to think he was just going have time to draw out a lie or two to get him in his favor. That is all the time I need, Naruto, said Slade, smiling behind his metal mask, putting the boy down and gesturing for him to sit on the bed so he could tell his side of the story. Naruto scowled at the man that was Kyuubi, now naming himself Slade, before he finally sat down on the bed while Slade just stood there with his hands behind his back with his eyes slightly narrowed as he stared at him. This is the truth, Naruto. As you know, every Kage before he or she steps down and retires from old age appoints his or her successor to take their place. As you obviously know, the fourth Hokage replaced the third before his untimely and tragic death, at my hands. Due to the fourth's death, the third came out of his retirement to retake his position as Hokage until a new successor could be named, said Slade, wanting the boy to know this one delicate piece at a time. We already went over this in school about the Hokages being nominated, so how is this relevant? Said Naruto, getting slightly impatient with 1.5 minutes gone with 3.5 to go. I'm getting to that, Naruto. You see, at the time of naming a potential successor who would surpass the third Hokage, for when he retired there were 3 possible choices. The first was the fourth Hokage himself. His name was Kazama Arashi. Second was, believe it or not, third Hokage's own student, now Snake Sanin, named Orochimaru, and the third and final candidate was from the Hyuga clan branch family named Hyuga Hazashi, who was the twin brother of the clan head Hyuga Hiashi. Naturally, as you can tell, Arashi earned the title and honor of being the fourth Hokage as well as the right to being the third successor. However, it did not go so well with the Snake Sanin that was Orochimaru and turned rogue on the village, said Slade, wondering if he could tell Naruto who his father was without having the boy blow a head gasket. So how is this new? We were all told this at the academy. We saw him in what we call a bingo book when it was passed around, said Naruto, who had heard all of this before, though he was slightly curious how Slade, as he called himself, knew about that. Years later, after the Snake Sanin went rogue at the time of my attack, I was in fact on my way here to deliver a special gift to the fourth Hokage, as he was a good dear friend of mine, said Slade, but was interrupted by Naruto, who, when he heard the last few words from Slade, burst out in anger at the man. Liar. You killed the fourth Hokage, how could you be his friend? Said Naruto, who shot out of his bed looking Slade right in the man's eye, not afraid of him in the least. Let me finish, Naruto, I still have some time left. As I was on my way here to give him my special gift in celebration for his wife who would soon give birth to a child in a few months, I was intercepted by the snake and he hit me in a surprisingly unstable genjutsu attack. It made me deranged and full of rage as I lashed out at everything and everyone in sight that got too close to me. Though my visions was hazed, I do remember getting a good chunk of the Snake Sanin's ribs before my psychotic episode took complete control over me, that forced me into transforming into my giant demon fox form that everyone in the village remembers me being. After that little event happened, I can even now only just slightly remember following the snake's bloody trailed scent to Kohono, thus causing me to kill everything that moved around me. It is quite the opposite of how I am when I fight, and once was before I became the nine-tailed demon fox that everyone has referred to as Kyuubi, said Slade, his voice drifting off slightly as if his last sentence being more of an afterthought. So it's this Orochimaru guy's fault. He was the one who made you go crazy attacking the village, and the fourth Hokage making him give up his life for it by sealing you and me. When I find him, I'm going to beat the crap out of him for both you and the fourth Sake. Wait, what did you mean when you said, before I became? That almost sounds as if you were not always a demon, said Naruto with anger and determination in his eyes, but was more surprised by Slade's last few words as was Slade. As he was surprised, Naruto picked them up. You'll find, Naruto, that not everyone is as they claim to be in this world of ours. I won't lie to you about this, Naruto, but before I was the nine-tailed fox demon, I was not the most likable guy in my previous life. I did many things, Naruto. Many terrible things that would probably be considered war crimes that would most likely get me executed if I were still human. You see, when I was human, a rather dead human to be more precise, I had become a servant for a very powerful demon. Of course he was not as powerful as I am now, but still he would be no pushover, that much is for certain. He made a deal with me that helped give me the power to annihilate any and all of my enemies in exchange for my body being alive again, said Slade, remembering how Trigon claimed that due to a technicality the deal he made with the interdimensional demon had become void. What happened? Said Naruto, leaning on the edge of his bed. He felt that for some reason, possibly because he was Kyuubi, or rather Slade's vessel, he could tell when the man was lying, and right now, he wasn't. Sigh, let's just say it didn't go the way I had planned, seeing all I wanted in our deal was my body back restored to the way of living flesh. All for naught, as he went back on our deal, forcing me to take more drastic measures to get my living body back. Thus in doing this I had to ensure I had my revenge against him in the end by defeating him. After that I went back to my old lifestyle of being a master industrial saboteur and a pure psychopath. However, even after that things changed as I found out that when I had died, for a second time. I found out later when I did die for a second time that there was a small side effect of being empowered by my former master, said Slade as he remembered the second time he died and felt the change. What happened next? Said Naruto as Slade's tale as it made him understand to a degree about this man and what he was like in his previous life. I changed Naruto. My body as well as my soul went to the 9th level of hell and went into dormancy for several hundred if not thousands of years. When I had awakened I had been reborn as the 9-tailed demon fox known in the mortal world as Kyuubi, and at the same time I had become the ruler as well as king of all that is hell. It was then that I learned that my world was no more and things had changed, though for better or for worse I did and still do not know for that matter. So I continued to follow my old habits and did what I normally did as I enter unfamiliar ground, said Slade, who became amused at the boy's interest in his life. What's that? Said Naruto, not realizing the 5-minute mark had long passed and his threat to end his life left his mind completely. What anyone would do in my situation, Naruto. I studied plain and simple. I learned all I could of this world that you live in, Naruto, and more. The way humans act and live here in your world, whether it was being just a mere human or ninja. I decided I needed to try and learn all I could when it came to a ninja's skills like your ninjutsu, taijutsu, and of course let's not forget genjutsu. After another 4 or 5,000 years I left hell as it was too boring for my taste and went to demon world where all demons go to when not in hell to congregate, as we consider it a home away from home of sorts, said Slade as he now paused as if to think for a minute before returning his eye back to Naruto. How did you meet the 4th Hokage? Said Naruto, knowing he was being selfish in his request to know, but he just had to know. Ah yes. I remember that day quite well, Naruto, as I had been walking in this form you see before you near Kohona to enter it for a good meal and a night rest. I had just killed a group of bandits with by bare hands and taken their money, feeling the need to just spend it all, said Slade, recalling the events of that day when he met Arashi. Flashback. Slade walked through the forest with his blood-covered left hand behind his back with a large sack full of money in his equally bloody right hand. Life had been good to me today. I was able to gain some material wealth and I killed over 20 people today. Life can't any sweeter than this, said Slade out loud as he had always liked the sound of his own voice. Slade stopped when he heard a thump sound of something hitting wood and now turned his attention to the sound of the noise he was hearing. 2989, 2990, 2991, 2992, said a voice counting off after every thump was heard. Someone is training here, but who would in this area? Thought Slade as he narrowed his eye carefully as he leapt from tree to tree till the voice got louder. Slade saw a blonde-haired man in a shadowy black and dark ninja training outfit that by the looks of it was someone of high status in the ninja world. Possibly a Junin, special Junin, or even Anbu from the looks of it, as he had seen what other ninjas wore to tell you what rank they were. 2996, 2997, 2998, 2999, 3000. Said the man with blonde sunlight-colored hair, man finishing his kicks to the nearly destroyed giant tree stump used for training as he wiped sweat off his head just after removing his ninja headband and forehead protector. Slade, feeling he should get to know this mysterious-looking young man, now moved from his position on the tree branch to the ground, and then clapped his hands, making the man he had been watching get into full alert battle-ready form. That was an impressive feat that you just did, kicking that tree 3,000 times. You should feel proud, considering the tree stump can't fight back, said Slade as in his usual mocking way of seeing things. How do you know I wasn't just faking it to make it look like I did it 3,000 times? I doubt you have been here since I started, said the man as his breathing that was once heaving up and down as he panted for breath was now slower, showing Slade that this man had a lot of stamina in him that was beyond that of a normal man. First off, you were and still are slightly sweating heavily, meaning you have been here for a long time, meaning you did perform 3,000 hits on the tree. Secondly, each kick you had landed on the tree stump are all perfectly aligned with marks on the tree, thus meaning that those kicks marked on the tree are yours and yours alone. There is no room to copy the kicks with such equal precision unless you are the one who kicks in that type of form. Third, you admitted it yourself when you said that I had not been here the entire time you were here, meaning that you were the one kicking on the stump all this time up till you reached your 3,000th kick, said Slade as he always had knack for solving such things. Okay, you got me. Now here is my next question. Are you friend, or foe? said the man with blonde hair, tightening his fighting stance even more so that Slade found it would be hard not to go beyond human strength to penetrate it should they fight. I am hardly your enemy, sir, unless you want me to be. As for being a friend, well, I had never really needed a friend in my life. If I did want to consider having a friend, seeing as you were the first to ask that, I might actually consider it. In fact, you would be the first friend I have had in a long time, said Slade, switching bag hands so he could shake the blonde man's hand with his right hand. The blonde man was about to when he noticed the man's right hand as well as the other with the bag of money were covered in now dry blood. I see you got in a fight yourself earlier. Anyone I know, or that might be a ninja or villager back in Kohona, said the now cautious blonde, eyeing Slade carefully as he was still on edge, and with the bloody hands in front of him it didn't help either. Relax. I just killed some bandits and took their money, seeing as they won't be using it where they are going when one dies for being like they were. You have nothing to fear from me, and besides I can tell you are someone of considerable rank and power within the village of Kohona, was it? I believe you did mention it more than once. Tell me, what is your name? Said Slade, still holding out his right hand for the man to shake. The name's Arashi. Kazama Arashi, special Junin and Anbu ninja of Kohona, as well as one of the many personal bodyguards to the third Hokage who rules over its people while protecting them, said Arashi, shaking Slade's hand, mixing the sweat on his hand with some of the dried blood of the bandits Slade had killed earlier in his hands. Call me Slade. You seem to be a bit young for being an Anbu, much less that of a high rank as a special Junin. Why are you out here training? I would have thought one such as you would out on a top secret mission by the order of the Hokage, or just relaxing in your home while you had a chance, said Slade, frowning slightly as to the man's curious and awkward behavior. In a few years from now, Sarutobi, the third Hokage, will retire from his position and will name his successor that will take over after he retires. The village council of elders have approved of the third's potential choices of me as well as 2 other nominees that he has chosen to possibly take his place as Hokage when he retires. The other 2 nominees are Hyuga Hazashi, who is the twin brother of the Hyuga Hiyashi, who is also the head of the noble and esteemed Hyuga clan. Then their final nominee is the third's prized student Orochimaru, who has mastered many jutsus in such a short time with him, said Arashi, seeing Slade nod his head in understanding. You must feel very honored to be nominated for such a thing. Tell me something, out of curiosity, where do you rank out of all 3 of you lined up, skills and all? Said Slade, as he couldn't help but be curious at this, as it was only natural that he should be. As it stands, I currently rank in 2nd place, size, but something is off in me. I feel as if I have been slowly getting weaker, and there is a pain in the back of my neck that keeps on springing up from time to time. Hazashi keeps getting stronger along with Orochimaru, and soon they will both be stronger than me by far, and I'll be dead last among the 3 of us. Not even that super pervert Jiraiya, that is also one of the other 2 of the Hokage's students as well as my sensei, can help me now. Even he's just as baffled as I am on the whole situation, said Arashi, looking slightly depressed, making Slade frown behind his mask, making him narrow his eye rather noticeably. I don't know why I'm doing this, but I feel if I don't I'll regret it later. My instincts have never failed me before, so I should follow them to see where it takes me, thought Slade, realizing he may have to help Arashi and achieve his dream while Slade would try to fulfill his with finally having a worthy apprentice who not betray him like the last 2 did. If you want, I can help you achieve the title of Hokage, as I am a master in a few things as well, and with my teachings I'm sure we can fix your current predicament, said Slade, who saw Arashi have hope in his blue lightning-like eyes. You would teach me? But you just met me, said Arashi, confused and surprised that a complete stranger would teach him things and help him become Hokage. That is true. Nevertheless, you are my friend Arashi. The first friend I have had for the first time in a long time. Who knows? Perhaps we will become more like family as time progresses, said Slade, putting a hand on the man's shoulder before gesturing for both of them to go into Kohona, as they were both kind of filthy from their daily activities, being that of both killing and training, and needed to clean up. End flashback. After that day, Arashi and me slowly became as close as brothers when I was not his secret teacher Naruto. I helped give him the idea for creating the Rasengan and another technique I'll help you learn later that he was famous for. And as for the pain he felt on his neck, well, we'll discuss that at a later date. I have told you all you need to know, and now I need you to gather what things you cherish, like clothing, money, etc. Valuables of that sort that you hold dear to your heart, and follow me, as we are going to be leaving this apartment as well as the complex entirely, so we can go see the third Hokage about a new residence to live in, said Slade, getting up and throwing Naruto the same white shirt that the boy had thrown away on the ground before earlier that day. Wait, what? Why? Said Naruto as his thoughts were still absorbing what Slade had just told him, and Slade now telling him to take only his most valuable stuff with him as they leave the apartment has completely blown his mind. Let's just say if all goes well, Naruto, both of us will get what we want. Tell you what, if you listen to me, I'll take you to that ramen shop you love so much. I imagine it will stay open for their best and most loyal customer, said Slade, seeing Naruto's eyes bulge right out of their sockets before he was moving all around his apartment so fast that for a brief moment Slade thought that Arashi was back from the grave. Within a matter of mere minutes, Naruto had one big white plastic bag full of clothes that he would need now or in the future in one hand, and a large cardboard box of things being held by his right arm on his shoulder. All set to go, Slade-sensei, said Naruto eagerly to go, making Slade's eyebrow, if he had one, rise up at the term sensei. Sensei. I haven't been called that since I was teaching Arashi when I was around here in Kohono originally. Nonetheless, I will be teaching the boy as I did him, so it's only fitting and appropriate that I should be called that. Should I tell him who his father is? No. He has absorbed too much information as it is, and if he learns about his father now, he will break what little of his mind he has left. So much like the man, it's almost scary. It would appear this boy will be my last shot at having another apprentice if I remember seeing the seal on the boy's stomach correctly, though I shouldn't worry too much. Even though my presence is making the seal absorb my power into him faster than designed by me being out here, it will not harm the boy. Though I should re-enter eventually, so to give the seal and the poor boy breathing space before doing this takes its toll on him. Unlike Robin or Terra, this time this apprentice will actually listen to me, that is if I do this correctly. It could be difficult with his still unstable one-track ramen-eating mind like it was slightly with Arashi, thought Slade as he now watched the boy as he almost hopping off the ground with his feet ready to move forward for some ramen at his favorite place away from home, though by all accounts it would have made a far better home than this rotting dump. Let's go, Naruto, and don't worry about paying, as I'll buy. I still have some money from when I first met your father with me. Fortunately, knowing your dinning habits when it comes to eating the stuff, I can still afford you and a drink of water for myself all in one, said Slade as he took Naruto's things off his hands, as he didn't want anything to be taken from the boy while he was around. Wait, won't people get suspicious of seeing you with, well, me? I mean, the way you dress, you kind of stand out almost as bad as I do, Slade-sensei, said Naruto as he had understood what Slade was doing when he took the items from Naruto's hands and arm. Don't worry, Naruto, I have it covered, said Slade as a symbol of the leaf village of Kohono made itself appear the form of fire on his forehead till it was burned in there from looked like to Naruto, painfully. Cool. Did it hurt when you did that, Slade-sensei? Said Naruto as he didn't want Slade to do something just for him. Your concern is noted, Naruto, and I appreciate it. However, to answer your question, the answer is no, as it's only temporary until we meet with the third Hokage later. Let's go, Naruto, as there is most certainly no rest for the wicked, said Slade, opening the door out of the apartment bedroom to leave with Naruto right beside him before opening the door for the man so he could get through. Moments later, outside, Naruto and Slade walked along the near empty streets of Kohono, and for the first time in a long time Naruto didn't feel afraid. He wasn't afraid of villagers chasing him or some drunk of a villager trying to throw things at him like stones, sticks, or glass bottles. He was with his sensei, who just so happened to be the Kyuubi, or at least referred to as the Kyuubi. As they walked, the villagers who were still out as well as some ninja looked at the pair walking by with questionable gazes. Though for Naruto, the poor boy still got his share of glares from all of them in the end. They'll be sorry one day, said Naruto in a whisper, clenching his fists in anger as the glares and hatred against him were completely unnecessary. Don't let their hatred get to you like this, Naruto. Block out their anger while channeling yours into determination to achieve your dream, and then when you are ruler of all of this village, they can either accept it when the time come or get they can hell out of here. For now, let them have their fun hating you. Your revenge against them by being the greatest Hokage ever will be all the sweeter when you achieve it with my help, said Slade as he had clearly heard Naruto's whisper as well as the whispers of the villagers and ninja of those they passed by. It was not long till they had reached their destination and found that Naruto's sanctuary that was known as Ichiraku's ramen in glowing lights above the stand itself. Hey old man. Hey Ayame, said Naruto with a greeting, surprising the two at the fact Naruto would come back to them a second time at night and with a guest, a slightly frightening-looking guest no less. "Hey Naruto. Who this?" said Ayame looking from Naruto to Slade, who sat down with the boy putting the box and plastic bag with Naruto's things next to him with his one eye watching them should anyone be daring enough to take Naruto's things. Naruto realized that Ayame may not take to liking the fact that Slade was Kyuubi, or that Kyuubi as she would consider him to be was originally inside of him. "This is Slade and he's going to be my new guardian and sensei. Soon I can become strong enough to take over old man Hokage's job and be Hokage myself someday," said Naruto, who found his lie to have more truth to it than he originally thought it would. Slade was slightly surprised himself at how truthful the lie sounded and realized himself that what Naruto said did in fact have more truth to it than he was sure Naruto himself realized when he said it. "That is correct. The boy has great potential, but needs a teacher to bring it out of him," said Slade, getting some suspicious eyes from both the girl and her father, meaning they had apparently heard of Naruto's previous guardians that he had seen himself from the boy's eyes and how they had mistreated the boy. "Don't worry Ayame, you can trust this one. Slade recently helped me and saved me from some assassin earlier tonight," said Naruto as if it were the most casual thing in the world, making the girl and old man become pale for a second at hearing that. "You poor kid. Tell you what Naruto, to celebrate you surviving such a dreadful thing, I'll give you a free large bowl of pork beef ramen tonight on the house for what that assassin tried to do to you. What do you want? Slade was it?" said Ichiraku as he eyed Slade once more curiously, as he could have sworn he heard that name before. "Yes, it's Slade. As for something to eat, I am not hungry at the moment, though water or perhaps some soothing warm herbal tea would nice," said Slade, knowing that he couldn't remove his mask out of necessity as it was his old human face, and it just so happened to be the face he had after he had died at the hands of Terra that Robin had seen as they had ventured into Trigon's domain. Ayame nodded, putting down the order even though it would be ready momentarily since herbal tea was so easy to make. "Hey Slade sensei, I had a question. Just how are we going to see the third Hokage? He's either asleep in the Hokage mansion or swamped in an overnight meeting or with paperwork that goes up to his wrinkly old neck," said a now exaggerating Naruto, getting a small chuckle from Slade and Ayame, though Ayame's was shorter due to her father who was glaring at her. It was understandable for Ayame to expect a glare from her father, as there was nothing to laugh at when you are old and you have so much paperwork to do in so little time. Her father remembered that quite well when opening this ramen stand when she was younger and how he looked exhausted from filling it all out. In triplicate. "Don't worry Naruto, if the gods above are anything that I expect of them to be, they will interfere in your favor as well as mine sooner than you think," said Slade as he mentally removed his containment jutsu over the fire he had started by Jin's TV set that was in the landlord's room. Within mere moments of doing this, the entire level of Naruto's floor where only he and the landlord had lived exploded in a massive fireball that could be seen even from where the ramen stand was. A few minutes later, after that, the third Hokage was at the ramen stand with a small squadron of Anbu Black Ops units ready for a fight with their ninja weapons drawn. "Sooner than you think, Naruto. Indeed, sooner than you think. Hehehe," thought Slade as he turned slowly to face the third Hokage, which was something that Naruto had already done after having his eyes go bigger than the bowl of ramen he was eating from the sheer shock of his apartment building and room being blown to hell. The tension in the area was so high it seemed the slightest action would cause an all-out battle for survival. That is until Naruto decided to cut it down in his own way. Hehehe. "Hey old man, nice fireworks that you saw, huh?" said Naruto, trying to make a joke out of the situation, though the Hokage himself was not pleased and if anything made it worse. My, it's Sarutobi, the third Hokage. You are looking as grand as ever for someone of your considerable age. Come join us for a bite to eat. Or would you rather prefer some of the herbal tea here?" said Slade in his calm voice, knowing fully well why the third was here, as he had sensed the month snooping since he first came out of the seal. Hokage Tower 20 minutes before the explosion. The third Hokage, that was Sarutobi, the professor, was no fool thanks to his 60 years of living, with over 50 of those years being a ninja. He had been in his office with his ever so dreadful paperwork that was the village government's lifeblood that kept its businesses going. The old man of a Hokage had just finished the last paper of work and was about to finally retire for the day in his much-needed bed when he felt a disturbance of a chakra presence around Naruto's apartment. Knowing fully well that anything concerning Naruto was as always a serious cause for concern as well as delicate subject all in itself, when Sarutobi sensed something was wrong. It also meant that someone, or rather something, was happening, and what was currently happening also involved the boy and the boy's deadly demon tenant. The third Hokage went to his crystal ball and focused his power on the orb to focus on Naruto's apartment. "No. It can't be possible," said Sarutobi as the pipe he had in his mouth had fallen out of it and onto the floor, spilling the addicting nerve-calming substance inside as he watched was unfolding before him. He saw Kyuubi. The nine-tailed demon fox that was Kyuubi was rising from the seal on Naruto, knocking down the assassin trying to kill the boy in a human form. Ah, the smell of a living body, said Kyuubi as Sarutobi watched from his orb as it breathed in air heavily into its human form, looking at the assassin who asked it a question that the Kyuubi responded in turn with cold, cruel, and calculating voice. Sarutobi felt powerless again as he watched the conversation go from being civilized to that of hostile on the Kyuubi's part, as he was now calling itself Slade. The third could only watched as the man who he sensed was a low-level chunin of an assassin out of fear of possibly dying painful had just confessed to what some of the Ninja Academy instructors had done to Naruto when he went to take the Genin exam, both the first time and this very day. How did he get let out? Could Naruto have done it in his sleep? I need to get to him, but as long as Slade is out of the seal I won't get within 5 feet of Naruto's apartment, thought Sarutobi as he continued to think of how to get near Naruto to disable Kyuubi without the Kyuubi discovering him. Sarutobi's future thoughts stopped before reaching the surface suddenly when Kyuubi in human form that was calling itself Slade stopped in the middle of the hallway. The third Hokage nearly had a heart attack when Slade turned his head upward, looking right back at the third Hokage's bird-eye view with a narrowed eye. I know you are watching, old man. If you wish to seek me out, then do so, and if you want, bring a ninja army with you. I could use a good kill if not massacre on my hands, said Slade before continuing his walk down the hallway to the landlord's room before knocking on it politely. Sarutobi immediately dispelled the all-seeing power of the crystal ball before he called for the Anbu guards outside. It was their job to watch and listen for any possible threats or enemies while waiting to escort their leader to his home. Yes, Lord Hokage, said one Anbu guard wearing a cat mask. Yes, I need you to gather as many Anbu and Junin ninja as you can in full battle-ready Anbu Black Ops gear that know about Naruto's condition. Ones that do not hold a grudge against the boy. Now, said the frantic-sounding third Hokage, making Anbu, poof, out of existence to follow his leader's orders. Within moments all the ninja that the Hokage had asked for were assembled before him in his office. Lord Hokage, I have brought everyone you have asked for, but I cannot find Kurenai, said the Anbu before he was told it was all right and was then dismissed by the Hokage before disappearing in a poof of smoke. Lord Hokage, I ask in the name of youth, what did you call us here for? Said Maida Guy calmly for once, though he was still wearing his usual disturbing green spandex, with his bowl-shaped haircut, and his thick eyebrows that made everyone wonder if they were his actual eyebrows or fake ones used to make it appear as if he had eyebrows. I have learned some terrible things about Naruto, group mumbles. Silence. It appears that the Kyuubi that has been sealed inside Naruto is somehow gotten out of his seal on Naruto's stomach. Gasps. However, I believe the seal still binds the Kyuubi to Naruto regardless of its newfound freedom outside the seal. The demon has already killed one person already. Gasps. It was an assassin sent to kill Naruto, though Kyuubi's now newfound freedom took care of the assassin. I fear for the safety of others in this village. Also, I must now assume that the landlord in Naruto's apartment may be next, if from what I saw where the demon was headed was any indication, said the third Hokage as he now briefly looked back at his now clear crystal ball before looking back at the now slightly unnerved ninjas assembled before him at his request. But why summon us here if that's the case, Lord Hokage? Why not summon people who hate Naruto so they will kill him without any hesitation in the matter? Said torture expert that was Mitarashi Anko, as she had personally seen no evil in the boy himself, just what he was the vessel of. Because I don't believe Naruto is under his influence of the Kyuubi just yet, and I need competent as well as loyal ninjas, who will listen to me should I tell them to stand down. I don't want to alarm Naruto or making Kyuubi agitated in this state, as I have seen what he can do in his human form and is not to be messed with. Plus Naruto trusts me and will listen to me when push comes to shove when one has to be serious, said Sarutobi, who received a nod from them all, from Anko to Ibiki to Gaia and a slightly reluctant Kakashi, who seemed for the first time in a long time serious about something. Present time Ichiraku's ramen stand. Naruto. Get away from him and come over here. Now, said Sarutobi in a serious voice, meaning that this was no time for Naruto's jokes, pranks, silly antics, or fake smiles that he always put on to hide his pain from everyone. Naruto's sheepish fake smile left his face almost immediately and he became much more serious, like the third's face was before Slade put a gentle hand on the boy's shoulder that made everyone else tense up at the show of affection. Slade smiled behind his mask as he realized what they were all assuming between him and the boy, and the two of them had bonded and he was now corrupting Naruto. You sure know how to make things that are private a public spectacle, Sarutobi. To think. Arashi spoke so highly of you at being the most intelligent one of the 3 Hokages of this village, said Slade, ignoring the killer intent of a certain one-eyed Junin who raised his headband, revealing his weird red eye to the demon lord, who was not intimidated in the slightest, as he had felt worse killing intent than this. Everyone else was surprised that the demon fox knew the fourth's name, but shrugged it off, feeling it was unimportant, for the moment anyway. Naruto, I'm going to ask you one more time. Get over here now, said Sarutobi, as his eyes now showed the old fire in them that had made him Hokage to begin with in his younger years. You think I'm corrupting the boy, Sarutobi? He already knows about what I truly am and what the 4th Hokage did to him that made him hated throughout this entire village by both villager and ninja alike. Did you really think that by revealing him as my vessel to both the villagers and the ninjas and asking that the boy be seen as a hero would actually work? If I had to grade you, Professor, I would give you an A for effort, but an F in being such a foolish and naive old man, as well as being stupid in the matter, said Slade, getting up from the stool, making some of the ninja look slightly more tense than before. Yeah, old man, I know all about the Kyuubi, and if it wasn't for him I wouldn't even be here right now. Slade sensei is not that bad a guy. You should hear him out, said Naruto, who had to almost struggle to speak at first from the killing intent from the silver-haired Junin of the group, who was now running through hand seals. Sarutobi, I know you said to follow you and trust your decisions, and I always have, but it is clear that this thing has corrupted Naruto. The demon has corrupted him into believing that the Kyuubi is the victim in this case, when it couldn't be more further from the truth. I was Arashi's student and he was like a father to me. I cannot just stand by and listen to this demon filth talk about him as if they were brothers in arms. It is an insult to me and Arashi, said Kakashi as he finished his seals with his right hand pressed down, gathering in blue electric-like energy into reed to use against the demon fox. Wait, don't fight please. Old man Hokage, please listen to what I have to say. After I was woken up by Slade sensei, said Naruto. Unfortunately, his voice was drowned out by Kakashi's attack in the ninja's hands as the Junin charged at him with it, as the sound of 1,000 birds chirping could be heard throughout the area. Chidori, yelled Kakashi as he aimed his attack at the enemy in front of him that he hated now more than any being in his life. It was a powerful assassination technique that was of Kakashi's own personal design that he modeled after the fourth's own prized technique, the Rasengan. However, from what Kakashi remembered when he showed the technique to his sensei, for some reason Arashi had a disapproving look on his face. Kakashi was now using this very technique to not only to end the Kyuubi's life, but also the very boy whose life connected the beast to this world. Naruto. Kakashi, stop at once, said Sarutobi as he wanted to hear what Naruto had to say, as he had ended his vision of what was happening through his crystal ball and needed to know what had happened after Slade was headed for the landlord's apartment. Slade knew what Kakashi was doing, as it didn't take someone with a surgically attached bloodline limit like the son of the White Fang had to see what, or rather who, the man was attempting to aim his attack at. Just as Kakashi was about to strike down Naruto through the heart with his attack, a wall of demonic chakra-like fire appeared, blocking the attack entirely. Kakashi, Naruto, and the others were stunned as they saw the wall in front of him. Whoa, Slade sensei, are you actually doing this? Said Naruto as he almost wanted to touch the wall in front of him had it not held Kakashi's attack perfectly in place. The third and the others looked to the source of the wall and found that it was none other than Slade, whose now one red glowing masked eye was now angrily looking directly at Kakashi. Fool, you may be Arashi's best student, but you are still the lazy and stupid failure he always feared you'd be, said Slade in a calm voice, but the anger laced into his voice was as thick as a months-old carton of milk in Naruto's now destroyed home. Kakashi was so shocked at hearing those words that he had failed to notice that Slade was now next to him, clutching his still Chidori-covered hand, removing it from the orange-red demonic chakra wall. How do you know he told me that? That he said that to me? Said a now terrified Kakashi as both his eyes stared into Slade's one demonic eye before Slade twisted the wrist hard, breaking it, canceling out the attack. Wouldn't you like to know, Kakashi? Said Slade before slamming his metal masked skull gently into Kakashi's face, knocking the silver-haired Junin back several steps as blood left his forehead down his face. Stop. The Q. I mean, Slade is correct, we should talk about this in a more suitable and appropriate setting other than here, said the third as the others got ready to fight after seeing what Slade easily did to Kakashi. Indeed we should. As there are too many people observing us here with their eyes and ears, it would not be healthy for Naruto in the future. I am glad that you agree with my observation about this situation, oh wise Sarutobi, said Slade in an almost mocking tone as he turned to the third Hokage. This should be done in more private setting as you said before, Slade. Please follow me with Naruto to my office so we may discuss this in a more civilized manner. Kakashi, go to the hospital to get your wounds treated and then see me tomorrow, said still slightly shook up Hokage, hoping that things could be resolved in a less hostile way. Lord Hokage, should we really trust this demon and bring him to your office? He could be planning something, as foxes were always considered the top master tricksters of all the animals in the world, said Asuma, who would rather get punched between the legs than see the Kyuubi even set foot in the Hokage's office. Do you know of a better way to keep the fox demon on his good side, Asuma? Did you not see how he easily stopped Kakashi's Chidori and Kakashi? He didn't even move a muscle till he had to in order to remove the attack away from Naruto. No, we will try to keep this as civilized as possible, said the Hokage, earning a nod from Slade, surprising everyone that Demon Lord would do such a thing. Better. Come Naruto, as we got our foot in the door. Now we push, said Slade, walking past Kakashi as he earning an understanding nod from Naruto as the said boy picked up his bag and box of possessions he took from his apartment with him, following in line with Slade on his left with the third Hokage on his right, with all the other ninjas as well as Anbu surrounding them as they headed for the Hokage Tower. 55 minutes later, Hokage's office. It took them about 15 minutes walking to reach Hokage's tower, with another additional 35 minutes to tell everything from both Slade and Naruto's point of view of things that lead up to the incident at the ramen stand. The remaining 5 minutes that came afterwards were to get used to the migraine headache the size of the Hokage monument the Hokage and the other ninjas had just listened to. As you can see from confidential information that you have from past events, Lord Hokage, even I am a pawn in this twisted game, said Slade, patting a sleepy Naruto who was now leaning back on his chair using the upper part of the cushioning like a pillow. It was obvious by this point that Naruto was beyond tired, as his mind couldn't stay awake anymore as his mental clock told him it was time to sleep. The Hokage looked over once at Naruto, then back to Slade, who just shrugged as if it was nothing before he just sighed, rubbing his wrinkled temples. I'm getting too old for this shit, mumbled an extremely tired Sarutobi as he felt like taking a vacation, which ironically was not in his power to do so. I assure you it is the truth if what you think I'm saying is a lie. Whether you believe it or not is entirely up to you. As for you getting too old, you could always let me take your place, said Slade jokingly at the end, though from the looks on everyone else's faces told the demon fox now was not the time for joking, even though for him it was enjoyable. Asuma was having one of his urges for a rare super drag while still looking at Slade like he was crazy. So let me see if I can get this straight and understand this correctly. You points to Slade. You, the great nine-tailed demon fox that we dubbed simply as the Kyuubi. Slade nods, who was technically indirectly responsible for killing our late great fourth Hokage. Slade nods, was in fact the fourth Hokage's secret training partner and sensei. Slade nods calmly one more time. I must be going out of my mind, said Asuma as he took a super puff of his cigarette, as the stress was becoming too much to take right now without a much needed drag. I don't know, Asuma, I would say this is a blessing in disguise for Ibiki and me, seeing as I have always wanted to torture a demon before. Especially this one, said Anko as her torturing psychotic side kicked in. She let loose some shadow snakes, wanting to see how the big bad fox demon would fare against her. Her shadow snakes came out of her, took one look at Slade, and retreated back into her arms, shivering in fear, making the sight slightly comical. Those are the smartest snakes I have seen in my entire life. As for you, Anko, was it? I suggest you take a long bath-filled soak in the hot springs till you remove the sickening stench of snakes off you. Some of us would like to breathe clean air and not the scent of a snake-dressed whore like you, said Slade, narrowing his eye at her, while everyone except Naruto, who was now asleep, backed away, unaware that his demon prisoner was now picking a fight by insulting one of two of Kohona's top interrogation specialists. Snake whore. Snake whore. All KLLU. When I get done with you sorry piece of demon shit, you'll be my begging to go back into the kid. Yelled Anko as she was beyond pissed, but you didn't need to be a genius know that, as the yelling clearly gave it away as she pulled out a double-bladed kunai, charging at him with all her speed and power. To anyone else, Anko had moved at high speed, while to Slade just saw her moved slower than a snail in snow. He grabbed her weapon in closed hand, spun around her, elbowed her in the back, and then finally was thrown into the wall with such force one would think that Tsunade, the legendary Sannin and the third student of the professor, had returned. Looks like you won't get your chance anytime soon with the condition you are in. Go to the hospital and get fixed up, and if you still wish to hurt me, seek me out, but know this. I will win every time because you can't defeat me, said Slade, gently cupping her chin up so she could see his sinister one eye while a small trickle of blood left her chin. At that moment, as there was a polite knock at the door and the newly promoted to Junin Yuahi Kurenai entered the room in her new Junin vest and outfit. Please forgive me, sir, but I must speak to you in regards to Hyuga Hinata and her family, said Kurenai, as she had been at the Hyuga compound all day and had just left the area a good 2 hours ago only to go to the local bar an hour later. Kurenai was not a heavy drinker and never had been, though Anko, for all her mischievous ways, had tried to get her to be. The crazy female ninja kept saying it makes the voices in the head stop every once in a while from talking. For a long moment in the bar she almost considered following her friend's advice, as she had tried, being the key word, to drown her hatred for the man that was Hyuga Hiyashi in warm sake. Damn that man for being more of clan head than a father, as his late wife Hitome would never have let such abuse happen, Kurenai had thought while in the bar as she looked at the sake bottle with such anger the bottle itself cracked and then broke after she left for the Hokage's office. She had tried to drown the voices in her head saying to kill the man, now consequences be damned, and end Hinata's suffering, as she had seen the poor girl in constant sorrow. The novice Junin had seen it in previous passing of the girl in the village or when she visited the Hyuga at the compound, up till Hinata's father finally ordered the female Junin to leave his daughter alone, as her care, as he put it, was in his very capable hands. Capable hands, my Junin best, thought a still furious Kurenai as she wanted to break that man's mind, body and soul into so many tiny pieces right now with a good solid genjutsu. However, the logical part of her mind refused to let her do such things, as the logical part of her brain told her to try to speak to the Hokage for a possible solution to this problem she was having with the very influential political families, noble traditions, of their clan. Am I interrupting something here, sir? Said a curious Kurenai, as everyone looked at her clueless face that looked like Naruto's was towards Hinata when she was less than 50 yards away from her secret crush, that was the blonde demon vessel. Not at all, Kurenai. In fact, everyone here should get some rest, as we need to have another meeting tomorrow concerning what we have just discussed here. Also, Genma, could you please see Iruka at his house and tell him I need to speak to him tomorrow morning? Tell him it concerns this year's genin examinations, said Sarutobi, leaving everyone to leave, though Anko could only be moved with help, seeing as she had been injured so easily by the demon in human form. When everyone else had left, it was just Kurenai, Slade, the third Hokage, and a sleeping Naruto who was now snoring slightly on the chair he was in. Sir, maybe I should come back tomorrow morning when you're not busy, said Kurenai, unsure if she could talk about what she wanted to say as she looked Slade over, measuring him up to her perceptive yet strange genjutsu-enhanced red eyes. It's all right, Kurenai, as this is possibly your best chance to see, as tomorrow I have to do some thorough chewing out of several Chunin instructors as well as certain others. As for the strangers in the room, the boy is sound asleep and is a heavy sleeper from what I have been told by his peers. Also, Slade here points to Slade, is no stranger to that of the Hyuga affairs that I am sure you are here to discuss with me about. Hiyashi has also been to see me, only it's not about Hinata or the clan, but rather you interfering with them and trying to encourage Hinata to disgrace her heritage and legacy, as Hiyashi put it, said Sarutobi, who for once was actually glad to deal with something in the village that was considered normal for him. Despite what that man says about what I am doing, Lord Hokage, I think you'll find he is the one who is disgracing her in the memory of her late mother Hitome, said Kurenai as she glanced over at Slade again out of the corner of her eyes. Hitome is dead. How? Said Slade as his eye had now narrowed dangerously, as he had no knowledge about this event. Unfortunately, she is Slade. As for how, we don't know. Some people tried to blame it on the village's scapegoat. Kyuubi. Many people claimed it was an act of revenge by the demon on the village by aiming itself at the last great clan of Kohono, said Sarutobi, not wanting to reveal that Slade was in fact Kyuubi in human form to Kurenai, as he did not know how the female Junin would take such news of the man that was Slade, who was in the very room being Kyuubi and to some extent being able freely walk around. Whatever caused Hitome's death changed the man completely, and even though at first I supported him because he was in pain, he has changed drastically. He went from the man I once respected and grieved with at her funeral to a man whose heart is so cold you can't get near the man without shivering whether you look into his eyes or not, said Kurenai sadly, as it had been the case on several occasions with that man when she had gone to see him about Hinata. Tell me, my dear, do you know about the secret Hyuga scandal during the time of the nominations for the 3 people who would become Sarutobi's successor? said Slade, who was curious as to just how far this woman would go to see the Hyugas put in their snobbish place. Secret scandal. No, what was it about exactly? Said Kurenai, as she had never officially even heard of such a thing in the Hyuga clan, though she did hear the various whispers of the rumors flying around that dishonored the branch family considerably. Slade, before you say anything further, I want Kurenai to understand that she cannot in any way reveal what is about to be said. I do not want the Hyugas to try to find a way out of this should they know that you of all people know about this information. In fact, it's one of the rare things I have that prevents them from trying to make a move on trying to kill Naruto in a public execution. They have great influence with the vast majority of the elders in Konoha, and this is the only blackmail material I have that keeps their dark desires at bay. But should they find a way around it, I have no safety net to fall back on, so what we tell you now cannot leave this room, said Sarutobi, seeing as such a scandal was intense in itself, as it was one of the reasons the main and branch families never got along with each other, creating the friction and infighting within the family as a whole. My lips are sealed, Lord Hokage, said Kurenai, as she would have to thank this stranger later for giving her this piece of Hyuga dirt, as such things from the family were believed to be non-existent. In fact, she could use such information later with the permission of the Hokage course as a bargaining chip for Hinata's secure future should things go worse in the clan. Also find out who he is and what he looks like beyond that mask, thought Kurenai, as she never really liked people who hid their faces like Kakashi, as it made no sense in the slightest to her, because she knew from those very rare few people who did see his face that he was not scared at all under it. It all started as things came to a head about 7 or 8 months before a successor was to be officially named by Sarutobi and approved by the village council of elders for being the 4th Hokage. However, no one ever said that people who could and should play fair would in these types of cases. This scandal with them is further proof of such a case with the Hyuga's branch family, though they will never ever admit it to anyone, even on their own deathbeds, said Slade, starting the story off, knowing the Hokage would continue where he left off before continuing when the time presented itself. I don't think I understand, said Kurenai, as she saw the metal masked man's close as he now leaned against a wall, deep in though as if remembering the events run through his head. You see, Hazashi along with several other key Hyuga elders that wanted control of Konoha to expand their superior clan all over Fire Country. Though by the time they wanted to do it, they realized they could only do it through legal channels of the council. The Hyuga elders struck a deal with Hazashi that he could not turn away from. If it was possible for Hazashi to become Hokage as they wished him to and achieve the status and power over the village, then the Hyuga elders promised to him they would not put the caged bird cursed seal on the man's only son Neji when he reached the required age, as set in accordance to traditions where a branch family member would receive it, said the Hokage as he remembered how things played out. Naturally, Hazashi had accepted the deal, from what I can assume from this being such a scandal, said Kurenai, though she couldn't blame him, as she probably would have done something like that if she had a son or daughter living under those conditions. Yes, he did. As time passed, the Hyugas learned and found that their greatest threat for their chance at power was not Orochimaru, but none other than the late Kazama Arashi, who eventually became the 4th Hokage. It was then that Hazashi, with the help of the Hyuga elders, discovered a rare and forbidden seal that can only be learned by those of the high-ranking Hyuga elders. However, according to Hyuga clan laws, it can only be used on other Hyugas, as it was designed for them should the caged bird seal not be, though rarely was, enough to restrain a branch member of the family, said Slade, as he now opened his eye as he turned to look at Kurenai in her red eyes that made her, dare he think it, attractive. Just when I think I can't hate the Hyugas, noble traditions, I have been proven wrong about just how low that clan will get to maintain their power over the mystery of their stupid eyes and their bloodline limit, said an angry Kurenai, who got a nod from both the Hokage and Slade as they obviously agreed with her. You were not alone in that regard either. When I learned what they did to Arashi as they tried to ensure he would lose to Hazashi when the time came, they secretly put that seal on the back of his neck above his hair so no one would see it. The seal they gave him had started disrupting his pathways shortly after it was placed, after Arashi and Hazashi went off to train one day and Hazashi knocked Arashi out in a surprise move using a difficult gentle fist disabling technique known only by the Hyuga elders and the both Hazashi and Hiashi, said Sarutobi, looking at her, waiting to see the question he could see was looming in her head. Did Hiashi know about this? Was he even involved? Said Kurenai, as she would love to see that man put in her place. No, I knew both him and Arashi very well. They were close dear friends to one another, and it was because of Arashi and me that Hiashi even fell in love with Hitome. If it was not for Arashi and myself, Hiashi would never have met, fallen in love, and married the woman. In fact, he was the only Hyuga besides Hitome who supported Arashi in being the fourth Hokage instead of his own brother, which if I recall correctly made his twin exceedingly angry, said Slade looking over at Naruto's sleeping form for a moment as he had sensed something wrong coming from the boy, but couldn't pinpoint the source of it. One can only imagine what Hazashi must have felt towards who was of the same blood as him. I'm not defending Hazashi, but still having your own brother not support you in our quests for something like the title of Hokage. Your own twin brother for that matter, said Kurenai as she thought of what it would be like to have a twin sister that looked just like her not supporting her when she needed her the most. When it was discovered that the seal was placed on Arashi by Hazashi at the secret and discreet assistance of some of still now nameless Hyuga elders, I was going to have the man executed for treason. However, when what I was about to do to the man was brought to Hiyashi's attention, it was only then did the man intervene and spare his brother from certain doom. In exchange for having his life spared, Hazashi would be forced to witness his son being branded the cage bird curse seal to be performed by none other than the head of the Hyuga clan, Hyuga Hiyashi himself, said Sarutobi, seeing Kurenai's now shocked expression that etched her face. Talk about adding insult to injury when it comes to punishment. I take it with the seal removed off of the fourth's neck he quickly came back stronger than ever, said Kurenai, getting a nod from Slade and the third. Indeed. Though Orochimaru was far from happy with the end results, feeling that he was being removed from a title of power that felt was rightfully his, as he was the year points to the Hokage's best student of the three you trained. Thus was what made him go rogue in the first place, said Slade, knowing that this talk about the past would soon be ending. I see. Well, I'll keep what you told me in mind, sir. I'll see you tomorrow sometime in the afternoon for a possible mission, if that's all right, said Kurenai, who received a tired nod from the Hokage before she left out and shut the door for her home. I need to speak with you tomorrow as well about Naruto being a ninja, even if it can only be that of an unofficial record. Also, I need to ask you for a small favor, and I expect the answer to be a yes, said Slade, leaving his nicer personal with Kurenai and stared back harshly at the third Hokage with such a look the Hokage flinched noticeably at the sight of it. You can be at the meeting I have with me and Iruka before I can even do anything about that. As for the favor, it all really depends on the favor, though I have a feeling that even if I said no, you would still do it anyway, said Sarutobi, looking into Slade's one eye while Slade himself just nodded. I wasn't going to kill the people working at the orphanage that Naruto lived at when he was younger, as they were nothing but cruel and inhumane to him. When you were not there twice a week for your checkups on him, they beat him, poisoned him, and even tried to starve the poor boy to death. Had it not been for your twice-a-week checkups and my demonic powers of healing of his wounds, the boy would have died in less than the week that he was delivered to them, said Slade, now seeing the Hokage's reaction and the old man's face go from shock to angry in less than 3 heartbeats. Very well, Slade, as I have no choice. I did not tell them he was the vessel so he would be able to at least have a good childhood in the orphanage with other children due to the law I made. However, seeing as to what they did to the boy falls not only under the S-class law about not telling anyone that Naruto held you within his body, but their actions also falls under the child abuse prevention law. A law that the first Hokage himself made when he was sitting in this very chair when he ruled over Konoha. When either of the laws are broken, the person or people who break it are put to death, so no matter which law we use against them, either way it doesn't matter, as they are to be sentenced to death for the crimes they have committed. Fortunately, it never specified just how they would die when they broke either of the laws, other than the fact that they would, said Sarutobi, who looked into Slade's eye with a smile on his face and a glint in his old eyes, telling Slade the hidden meaning behind his words. I understand, Lord Hokage. Tell all ninjas within the shinobi ranks not to do anything yet till after I'm done with them. I would also suggest you prepare the employment forms for finding new child supervisors, said Slade, picking up Naruto and the boy's remaining possessions gently before heading towards the door, but was stopped by third Hokage. Wait, you have no place to go. Please stay at the Hokage mansion that I live, at least for tonight, until things are better. I give you my word the boy will be safe while staying at my home, said the third Hokage, not wanting to find out just where the boy would be staying had he not made the offer. Slade just smiled at the old man, though you wouldn't be able to tell with the metal mask covering his face. Naruto and I would be honored, said Slade, walking out with Naruto in the demon's arms with Sarutobi right next to him.